Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm very excited, and everyone here at Discover is very excited to have Tommy Griffith with us. Before we go any further, if you can just pop into the comments over there, let us know if you can hear us all good, if you can see us all good. Tommy, if you could give a little shout out, make sure that they can hear and see you all right.
Hey, check. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Cheers. And we're getting some comments rolling in. As people let us know if that's all working well, feel free to shout out where you're tuning in from, maybe what you're excited to learn today, how you heard about Tommy, or how you came about this event today. We're getting some wonderful hello from Montreal. Oh, thank you so much. It means a lot that you're joining us from all over the world. Looks like they can hear us. Everything's going good. Dr. Lynn. Oh, Gip tuning in from Dallas. We got people from all over the world, from Canada, from the UK, from Midlands in the UK. Looks like everyone can hear us all right. Again, feel free to pop in what you're excited to learn. I'll set a couple expectations real quick. Tommy has a lot to teach us today, and he's going to be giving us a lot of information. So don't worry if it's moving too fast. There will be a replay available that will send to your email, and it will be in the comments. And if you have questions as Tommy's going, feel free to pop them in the chat. I'll do my best to pop in and answer those as Tommy's giving his presentation. But we also will have a dedicated Q&A section at the end. So if you can write them down or remember them, we'll have a dedicated time for you to ask all of those questions to Tommy. And just to give a little background, so once again, we have Tommy Griffith here. He is going to be showing us your first 1,000 students launch and scale your online course. A couple things we should expect to learn today: how to come up with and prioritize business ideas that will give you an unfair advantage in the market, the best way to de-risk your time and resources by quickly validating your idea, and Tommy and Eduardo's playbook of tactics to kickstart your business and get your first customers, even if you don't have an audience. Little background on Tommy. Tommy is the founder of ClickMinded, an online course business with over 30,000 students that has generated over $2 million in revenue. He previously managed SEO at PayPal and Airbnb. And without any further ado, Tommy, I would love to hand the stage over to you. How are you feeling? If you can introduce yourself and take it away.
Man, I would love to bring you on as our hype man, Jonah. I appreciate that. You're pumping me up. That's great.
I'm excited, man.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot. Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's okay with you, I'll probably just dive in. But yeah, like you said before, as long as everyone can see and hear us, okay, that's great. And Jonah, if my mic goes out or my video goes out or anything, or if people have questions, please feel free to interrupt me. I won't be able to see the screen. So I'll probably swap over. If that's okay with you. Do you want to get going, or are we still waiting for people to roll in?
No, it looks like we got tons of people coming from all over, just excited to hear what you have to offer. If you can make sure your presentation is ready to go, I will pop it up for you.
Cool.
And let's get going.
Okay, so the slides are loading, and can you let me know if you can see and hear me, Jonah? Does that look okay?
We can see and hear you great. We are all ready.
Sweet. All right, well, everyone, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it, and thank you, Jonah. The guy's a natural, huh? He's a natural. We do a lot of webinars here, and we do a lot of online events, but Jonah's clearly very good at this stuff, so it made it very easy for us to come and partner up with Teachable today. So thank you all so much for coming. We're going to fly through this. We have so much to cover in a very little amount of time. I can't see the screen right now, so if you do have questions, feel free to enter them into the chat. Jonah may interrupt me from time to time, or you can save them to the end where we will do Q&A. Also, Eduardo, my co-founder, is in the chat as well. Eduardo, if you want to just chat away and tell people hi, he'll be answering some questions as well. So first and foremost, I need you to get fired up for this one. This one is for nerds only. I need you to be like this little girl at a baseball game, going for that cotton candy. This is an investment of your time. Don't waste it. We're going to cover a lot in the next hour. And so if you want to be involved, don't waste your time. Actually commit to this. Get the most out of this. Close Instagram, close iMessage, close WhatsApp, close Facebook, close those other tabs in your browser. Sit up straight. Do I sound like your grandpa now? Sit up straight. Maybe move to a quieter room if you've got kids or coworkers or your spouse or partner running around. Maybe grab a pen and a piece of paper. I like to take offline notes when I take online courses or webinars or anything like that because I retain more. And then full screen this for optimized viewing. If you're actually going to be here, then actually commit. Now, half of you didn't read that. Half of you are this guy right now. You're the didn't read LOL guy, okay? So if you didn't read, I'm serious about this. If you can't commit to these things, I recommend just leaving now. You should either do this or not do this, but you shouldn't kind of go halfway, right? So please commit to this if you want to get the most out of this. So after this 1 hour session, you're going to leave with 3 very powerful tools. First is the exact framework that you can use to start a profitable online course business from scratch. The second is a playbook of tactics that you can use to get customers, even if you have no audience at all. And the third one is all the templates and cheat sheets that you need and that you can use in order to get started today. We're going to give you those as templates that you can take away and get started today. We've had a bunch of testimonials about this webinar we've done in the past. Drew Burney, he's the content manager for markmanson.net. If you're familiar with Mark Manson, he's an incredible author. He gave us a great testimonial. I have another course idea and I'm running it through the blueprint worksheet now. And you're not kidding when you say it's more valuable than an MBA. I've done research before, but this just gets everything right to the point, pointed in the right direction fast. Love it. So we're going to give you all these downloadables right at the end of this class. So please stick with us. So here's what you're going to be able to do. If you're a first-time entrepreneur, you're going to be able to start generating revenue from your business without quitting your job. If you're a coach or a trainer or an instructor or a soon-to-be coach, trainer, or instructor, you'll be able to scale your business beyond your local presence and reach thousands of potential customers. You'll also be able to stop trading your time for money, right, by turning your skills into an online course. And if you're an online personality, like a blogger or a YouTuber, or an Instagram model or something like that, right? You can monetize your audience through a product that you own or build a sustainable and recurring source of income, right? So there's a lot of opportunities here. If you stay to the end, you're gonna receive the online course blueprint. This is all for free. So please stick with us and commit to this. If this doesn't sound like it's a good fit for you, I recommend leaving now. And then just a heads up, there's gonna be an offer to enroll at the end of this class as well. All right, so a little bit about me. My name is Tommy. I'm the clown there on the right. I'm a digital marketing guy. I've been doing online marketing for more than 10 years. I used to run search engine optimization at PayPal and Airbnb, and now I'm the co-founder of ClickMinded, which is a digital marketing training course for marketers and entrepreneurs. We teach businesses how to train up their teams on online marketing. So a couple of years ago, just a brief story, and before we jump into the class today, a couple of years ago, I was working at Airbnb. I was running search engine optimization there, and I started this online course as a side project. That's how the relationship with Teachable started. It was this very dorky looking side project. We jump into the Wayback Machine quite a lot through this, so do bear with me on that. It was a very dorky little side project I had, and sort of put it on online course marketplace back in 2012. And over the years, the online course kind of started to grow and grow. It was the online course industry was very nascent back then, almost 10 years ago, which makes me feel very old. And the website took a bunch of different sort of steps through its journey, through its transformation, right? So we pulled up a bunch of different old screenshots from it. And then all of a sudden, the side project of mine, this online course, started surpassing my salary at Airbnb, and I decided to quit and go full-time on online courses a few years ago, right? So now this is what ClickMinded.com looks like today. And so now ClickMinded is a 7-figure business with more than 30,000 students. Our customers are people like Volvo, WeWork, Grammarly, Stitch Fix, Liberty Mutual, Brigham Young University. There's universities using our curriculum in replacement of textbooks, which is wild because the first version of ClickMinded 9 years ago was a free, conference room we rented out and some borrowed video equipment and a very ghetto setup. It was a very, very duct taped together version 1. And now we're being used in, second tier, like higher end university curriculum. It's just wild to even say that. So that's sort of the background. Today, we're going to show you exactly how we did this. So if that sounds exciting, please let me know in the chat right now. Let me know if you're fired up. Let me know if that sounds boring. Let me know how excited or maybe questioning you are of what you're going to see today, skeptical maybe, but do let us know in the chat right now. Okay, so before we start, I want to share what motivated us to go through with sort of creating this little mini course. And since last year, I doubt I need to explain this very much. We are living in a very fundamentally different world, right? The 2020 pandemic started what we think, we've been nerding out about this a lot in our company Slack, but the 2020 pandemic started what we think will be the most important economic shift in a generation. You don't need me to tell you that the world is looking very different right now. In the next few years, more people than ever will start new businesses, new side hustles, new projects, things that are not directly tied to an employer, right? You've seen all the headlines at this point. I'm sure we don't need to rehash this. We're moving on, right? But a very surprising number of businesses were started in the middle of the pandemic last year. Humanity is being dragged into the future, kicking and screaming, whether we like it or not. Some people are more prepared for this than others, right? So for many of us, I promise you, this is good news. So we're calling this kind of movement, this kind of monumental shift, the rise of the little guys. And it's a super exciting time to be alive. With millions of people looking to learn new skills, there's this massive demand for knowledge. I'm sure you've seen some of this. So this is what makes it an amazing time to start an online course business. Udemy, right? So they released a bunch of different surveys last year. They're seeing massive increases in student enrollments and teachers creating new content. 425% increase in enrollments for students, 55% increase in course creation by instructors, 80% increase in usage from businesses and governments, which is bananas. Ankur, the founder of Teachable, he was tweeting out some fascinating stats, publicly talking about Teachable's numbers, right? In 2020 on Teachable, 2 creators made over $10 million, 56 creators made over $1 million, 823 creators made over $100,000, et cetera, et cetera. You can see this shift happening while, in our presence, in our midst. So starting an online course business for me was one of the best decisions I had ever made. It allowed me to do a bunch of different stuff. I paid off all my debt in my early 20s, was generating 6 and now 7 figures a year, traveling and living in some of the coolest cities in the world, working on stuff I'm passionate about, helping other people grow their own businesses, and being able to hang out with family and friends on my own schedule, right? So it's been very great for me. But if you're someone like this and you're looking for resources out there to help you get started, this is what you're going to find. You're going to see lots of people talking about passive income, make money online. It's kind of this, online poker adjacent, affiliate marketing adjacent kind of world that isn't as high quality as it could be, let's say. These people use FOMO, exaggerated claims, and a couple too many fire emojis and dollar sign emojis, and they try and convince you that starting a business is easy. We're not interested in playing this game. So instead, we're going to do the exact opposite of these exciting get-rich-quick schemes in this class. We're going to teach you how to build an online course the real way. The spoiler here is that it isn't fast, it isn't passive, it doesn't involve any overnight success, it's not very sexy, it's incredibly boring actually, right? But we're going to give you all the tools and resources that you need. You're going to be the one who has to do the work. So the online course blueprint consists of 3 stages, and we're going to give this out in just a moment. Let's cover all of these next. So first up is idea validation. That's how to pick an idea that gives you an unfair advantage. Next up is business validation, getting your first 10 customers before you even build your product. Then scaling your business and going from 10 to 1,000 customers. Finally, we'll wrap up with free resources for you and Q&A. So this class is designed so that you can start your online course business while still working full-time on something else. That's key. If you're working somewhere else and you're saying, yeah, but maybe later, or no, I can't right now, or no, I'm too busy, that's not good enough. It's not a good excuse. So we're going to give you all these resources where you can start today, even if you're still working full-time somewhere else. And the best part is if you do the work, you can start your business by the end of this week. The end of this week. I'm not joking. So let's get started. Okay, first up, idea validation. So how to pick an idea that gives you an unfair advantage. And Jonah, feel free to interrupt me or jump in at any time. Let me know on time.
Yeah.
but we'll keep moving.
Yeah, Tommy, we're getting a lot of good questions. It sounds like a lot of people are very especially interested in how you get those first customers, how you market to those first customers. So I know you're just plowing along, but that's what people are chatting about and wondering. There's the idea, but then how do you get it to people? But
Great.
yeah.
All right.
Keep plowing.
All right, cool. Yeah, we'll cover all that. So let's talk about idea validation first, picking an idea that gives you an unfair advantage. So when you hear the term idea validation, many think it's just about confirming that there's demand for a product, right? The reality is this: there's 3 elements that are even more important than market demand. And I want to talk about those now. It's customers, markets, and mindset. We see people making this mistake all the time. Most people's businesses, most people's business ideas, they attack the wrong customers in the wrong markets with the wrong frame of mind. If you've ever had an unsuccessful business idea, keep this in mind. And actually, I'd love to hear it. Go ahead and let us know in the chat about any unsuccessful business ideas you've had where you've attempted and you completely flopped and failed miserably. I have probably 30 or 40 of them, so feel free to share in the chat. But most people's businesses attack the wrong customers in the wrong markets with the wrong frame of mind. Wrong customers, these are people whose problems you don't understand. Wrong markets are opportunities that are too competitive or too out of reach for you. And the wrong frame of mind is focusing on yourself instead of your users. So let's look at some quick examples. The wrong customers, fellow kids. So how about a 22-year-old guy in university who's buying and selling wedding jewelry? A 40-year-old married mother of 2 who's an online dating coach, or an 80-year-old grandma selling college football tailgate beer pong tables. Now, of course, there's exceptions. Of course, there could be a 22-year-old who's an expert at wedding jewelry, and I'm doing a little stereotyping here, but you get my point. A lot of people, they kind of size up opportunities based on how much money they can make or what's trending, right? But the reality is these people don't understand their customers. So not understanding your customers is a massive problem, and we see people do it all the time. Next up are the wrong markets. You kind of have these sort of idea seizures or shower thoughts, right? I love Japanese food, so I'm going to start a Japanese restaurant. I'm really good at Instagram, so I'm going to go make Instagram. I love documentaries, so I'm going to go make a documentary and sell it to Hollywood, right? It's just sort of this, I have a thing that I like, so I'm going to do that, completely agnostic of market realities and market forces. The last one, and we see this all the time, is the wrong mindset, being way too focused on yourself, being the double Spider-Man point guy, right? Instead of focusing on your customers. So here's an example of an email that we received when we were launching this new course we created. And someone was asking for advice on what kind of course they should create. And I sent them an email and asked them a couple questions, and here's what they replied with. I don't want a traditional 9-to-5 job. I don't want to make cold calls or attend meetings. I want flexible working hours. I want the freedom to work from wherever. I want positive results within 3 months. I want to be making X number of dollars by this point and Y number of dollars by that point. I don't want a lot of capital required. And just look at the mentality here. I don't want. There's no focus on solving other people's problems. Now, don't get me wrong. It can be advantageous to think about the high-level strategy of how to design a business around your life. That's fine. But there's such an unbelievable focus here on the person in the mirror and not the people whose problems you're trying to solve. This is a recipe for disaster. This is a recipe for failure. The first few months or years, I'm sorry to tell you this, and you probably already know this if you're running a successful business now, it's not going to be easy. This isn't very sexy to say, but the focus should not be on you. You have to be focused on solving other people's problems.
Tommy, I'm just popping in to say you're blowing my mind here. Me and the people in the chat. I don't know how many times I've seen similar ads or like the kind of creators you were saying, baiting you in. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? So just everyone in the chat and myself, this is so important.
It's everywhere, right? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And that's why it's worth bringing up. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for bringing that up. And so that's the thing is, you'll see this all the time advertised, and it's always, you're always being sold the dream. When the reality is you have to be ready, willing, and able to serve other people for a very long time when you're first getting started. right? Paul Graham, right? He's the founder of Y Combinator, the startup accelerator in the San Francisco Bay Area. He has a great quote from an article he wrote on his blog called Do Things That Don't Scale. He says, you should take extraordinary measures, not just to acquire users, but also to make them happy. Your first user should feel that signing up with you was one of the best choices they've ever made. And you, in turn, should be racking your brain to think of new ways to delight them. That is the thing. You can quit your job, you can start the side project, but I hate to tell you this, you have a new boss, and your new boss are your future customers. It doesn't go away. You always end up having a boss. So on top of that, you have to be willing to get your butt kicked for a little bit of time. Sometimes it is going to suck, especially in the beginning. It's going to suck for a very long time. So the mindset needs to shift here. It's not all roses and rainbows in the beginning. It sucks a lot, and it's very brutal. Please be prepared for this. So in order to push your business through the early stages, you need to be passionate about what you're doing as well. There are a ton of great business ideas out there, but there are not a ton of ideas that you will personally be passionate about. Now, I'm not necessarily saying, oh, you love to paint, so only run a painting business. But you need to be genuinely interested in what you're working on. There's a very simple test for this. And the test is this: are you excited to work on this idea on a Saturday morning? So let's say you're working full-time somewhere else. You wake up on Saturday morning, you have no obligations. How do you feel about opening up your laptop and working on this project? If you feel great about it, keep going. If you don't, you may want to consider something else. Okay, so now let's talk about exit velocity. This is really important for anyone who's currently working somewhere else. So actually let us know in the chat if you're currently working somewhere else and you're considering starting an online course for the first time. Let us know in the chat. I'm curious how many people this will affect. So exit velocity, finding your unfair advantage. So when it comes to finding a business idea, it's really helpful to think about this concept called exit velocity. So exit velocity, this was from a great blog post from a friend of mine. His name is Dan Andrews. He runs a podcast called Tropical MBA. It's a fantastic podcast. He's got this quote, and he says, exit velocity is the amount of professional and entrepreneurial momentum that you have when quitting your job and starting a new venture. Momentum can come from a variety of sources: investment, capital, experience, anchor clients, industry knowledge, and connections, aka unfair advantage. So let's dive into this a little bit more. This is an important concept here. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because I made this mistake, and so many of my friends have made this mistake as well. A lot of people think that, they put their life in these boxes, and they think, okay, my box now is my current employer, and my next box is going to be, my startup idea or my online course business idea or whatever it is. They think they can't start a new business unless they quit their job or stop working on their existing business. And the reality is that's wrong. You absolutely can. And in fact, it's the opposite. Your current job is not an obstacle to starting your business. It's a tool that you can use, and you absolutely should use in your favor. The current job that you're at has a ton of opportunities that you can use to slingshot your business into its existence. So here's how that worked for me. So I was managing search engine optimization at PayPal. My boss had asked me to run an SEO workshop for the marketing team. There were a bunch of my colleagues that needed to learn a little bit more about digital marketing. So I gave a talk. It was a 2-hour talk. It went very well. There wasn't really a point to it. My boss just asked me to do it. But I got a lot of really good feedback from my colleagues. And specifically, a couple of people said, you made a super boring topic interesting. So that was my light bulb emoji moment. I tried, maybe 15 or something different side projects and businesses that all failed miserably. This one seemed like an interesting idea. And so I said, okay, I wonder if I can start a business teaching SEO to startups on the weekends. And that's sort of what got the whole thing going. So ever since then, I used every opportunity I could, like a desperate trapped animal with his back against the corner, leveraging things at my current employer into an unfair advantage on my online course. A couple of examples. I was working in SEO, right? Being paid by an employer to work on search engine optimization. And then I started teaching it to other people on the weekends. I was working for a bunch of big brands, PayPal and Airbnb. Those logos went right on the homepage. You better believe they went on the homepage. I needed to train colleagues, right? And then the first beta users were there, right? And then the colleagues used the products, and the first testimonials and referrals came in from there. So think about what you're doing in your day-to-day. Keep this in mind. What skills do you have that others want to learn? Which problems are you solving for yourself? Which problems are you solving for yourself, your company, or for your company's clients? How can you leverage your connections, right? So colleagues, partners, clients, in order to grow a little bit more? Which assets do you currently own or have access to that you can use? Maybe it's a blog, maybe it's an email list, maybe it's your own salary. These are all assets that you can use in order to scale up and start your online course. Okay, so just do keep that in mind if you're saying, yeah, but I'm working for someone else and I can't do it. It's not a good enough excuse. Okay, let's do a sanity check now here and talk about market demand. So once you have a very solid idea, it's time to check the demand for that idea. So there's a number of online tools that you can use to figure out if anyone wants your product or your service. If there is no competition for your idea, that's a very bad sign. Being focused on inventing something new is a classic noob mistake. People make this mistake all the time. They think they need to invent something. They think they need to start something brand new. And the reality is that you want competitors. You want people looking for something. You want someone who's already proven that there's an existing market for your product or service. I made this mistake all the time when I was younger. I would think that if anyone had ever thought of my previous business, then I was screwed and then I couldn't start it. And you have to invent something brand new. You watch these late night infomercials and you think you have to create a brand new product in order to make it. And the reality is that's an incredibly bad idea. You should go for, markets where there's obvious demand and more competitors. These are all the ways that you should kind of think through these problems. So let's dive into this a little bit more. So here's a few questions that you can ask while checking market demand. Are other people offering a solution? How many other people are doing it? How are they pricing it? How are they positioning it? Why are they positioning it that way? What are they doing well? What are they doing poorly? What's your best guess at their top line revenue, bottom line revenue, monthly expenses, and the number of employees that they have? These are all things that you can ask yourself before investing a dime into this product or service. Okay, so now we are going to dig into how to actually do this. So I'm going to switch over my screen. We're going to give you a downloadable that you can use and follow along with me. So you can go to CourseMinded.com/blueprint to grab this. We're also going to post this in the chat right now. So go ahead and grab this. I'm going to move over my screen. And Jonah, if you can still see my screen, do let me know.
We got you, Tommy. Everything's looking good.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, so we're going to post this in the chat right now. It's also available at CourseMinded.com/blueprint. I'm going to zoom in my screen. And when you get the link, you're going to get the copy link. It's going to say, do you want to make a copy for Google Drive? Just go ahead and click yes. But if for whatever reason you need an additional copy, you can go up to File and click Make a Copy, and you can do that there. So so go ahead and let us know in the chat right now if you've got it, if you've got a copy. We just want to make sure everyone has it. And I'm going to briefly go through this. We're going to be revisiting this sheet a couple different times. So don't worry too much. You're not missing out on anything. You'll have this forever. But feel free to follow along. If you just want to make a copy of it and then follow along, that's fine as well. So first up is the How to Use tab on the bottom left. So the How to Use tab is just kind of an index of what you're getting. And then there's 3 additional tabs down below. Step 1 is idea validation. That's what we're on now. Step 2 is business validation. We're going to do that next. And step 3 is building your course. So these are the 3 steps that you'll need. And we're going to go through this later on today. All of these are just links to that document. So step 1 is idea validation. That drops you into this tab. Step 2 is business validation. That drops you into the second tab, and you get the idea.
Tommy, I'm going to stop you just for a second. There was a little delay with the link going in, so people are just catching up here. Okay, cool. Yep, we'll slow down. So do let us know in the chat if you received it. It looks like there's a little bit of delay on StreamYard, so that's totally fine. But you'll have this, and we're going to revisit this a couple different times later today. So don't worry too much. But step 1 is idea validation. Jonah, does it seem like everyone's caught up? There's a little confusion there, everybody. There is the link to the course that is permanently pinned to the top. We'll get to that later. And I'm going to post again here. Then there is the link that goes to the CourseMinded website, which is for the sheet that Tommy is talking about. So don't get confused by the pinned comment from Teachable. Look for the one as it's scrolling through the chat. That'll take you to the actual page he's talking about and working with here. That's right. So that's CourseMinded.com/blueprint.
And if you don't have it, don't worry, don't stress out. We're going to keep posting it. You're going to get it by the end. It's going to be in the replay email. If you want to just sit back and watch, that's fine too. You will get this document. Don't worry. Okay.
Absolutely. Looks like people are getting it there, Tommy. So we can keep going.
Sweet. Cool. Sounds good. So remember, we were talking about customers, markets, and mindsets. And the basic idea here is to just use this and list out your customers and your markets and your mindsets. So customers. Right, the instructions are listed here. So write a potential customer and the problem that they're facing. Markets, write a market you'd be competing in. And then mindset, write down how you can help those people solve their problem. So an example, you can just go in and write a couple of different possibilities here for your future online course. So one example for potential customers, if I was thinking about an online course or any type of business, brick and mortar business owners who depend on in-store sales and have little to no digital presence. So maybe this is the type of customer. They run a coffee shop in town, right? Or a small toy store, something like that. And they have no internet presence. What's the market? Okay, this market might be advertising and digital marketing for local small businesses. And then the mindset, my mindset as an entrepreneur serving these people, helping the entrepreneurs transition to e-commerce, online services, and a much stronger digital presence. So you can go in and any possible ideas, you can just write them here and sort of list these out as you go along. Now, next up are your unfair advantages. This is just a brief summary of what we already talked about. So instructions here under skills. What skills do you have that others want to learn? Under problems, which problems are you solving for yourself, your company, or for your company's clients? Connections that you have. How can you leverage your connections to grow your business? Any assets you have, which assets do you currently own or have access to that could help your new business? So a couple of examples. Maybe you have some skills here: web design, email marketing, copywriting, social media marketing. Problems that you're good at solving. Maybe you know how to automate repetitive tasks or create processes or do graphic design, website development, something like that. Connections. Do you have any friends or family who could help you out? Maybe you know someone at the Chamber of Commerce. Maybe you have a coworker who has a 2,000 person email list. Any of your possible connections you can write down here. And then any assets you have. You work at a well-known company. You have a 2-week sabbatical coming up. You have a car. You're a public speaker. Whatever it is, any kind of assets that you have that could help launch your new business, you can write that there. Finally, checking market demand. So there's a bunch of different tools that we can use to check how much demand there is for any particular product, right? And so we've listed all these out here for you. You can use Google, Amazon, YouTube, Yelp, Craigslist, Reddit, Facebook groups, KW Finder, and Ahrefs.com. These are two of my favorite SEO tools to check search volume. Udemy is a great one to check for checking marketplaces for potential competitors. We're not going to go through all these. You can check them out yourself. But the basic idea here is you don't need to be guessing. You shouldn't be guessing. You can take a very quantitative approach to this to say, hey, instead of just waking up one day and deciding, I want to make a course, you can take a very methodical, quantitative approach and figure out, is anyone looking for this? Is there any competition behind this? What are my potential competitors doing? How are they pricing it? How are they writing the copy on their sites? Who are they targeting? All of this should be done before you spend a dime. And that's sort of the point, is you can take this methodical step towards identifying who your customers are, identifying your own personal assets and your own personal leverage, and sizing up the demand before you even get going. Cool, so that's idea validation. We're gonna go into business validation next. I'm gonna swap over to my slides here and let us know if that was helpful in the chat. We're gonna keep going.
And Tommy, real quick, while you're switching back over, I even for myself, looking at that sheet, it's so helpful because I know how intimidating that can be, but it looks like you've really developed a pretty good methodology to justify doing that research beforehand. Do you give yourself, when you launch into that stage, like a certain amount of hours you're going to do, or is this just absolutely mandatory work you have to do before you get going?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I mean, we'll dive into a little bit of that in the Q&A. But the basic the basic idea here is you want to avoid situations where you're seeing zero demand, right? Totally. And this is a big problem. We see a lot of people. They spend thousands of hours on a course or a product or idea, and then they check if there's demand after they've already created it and completed it and finished it. Right. And that's the wrong way to do it. You should be doing the research first. That's the idea here.
Thank you for that answer. Yeah, I'll let you keep going. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Yeah. So one important reminder before we move on to business validation. Many first-time founders obsess over this concept of the perfect idea. Ideas have very little value on their own, and you should treat them as such. So I love this example. It's this great blog post by this guy named Derek Sivers. Let us know in the chat if you ever heard of this guy. Absolutely phenomenal writer, podcasters, written books. He's the founder of, I believe, cdbaby.com, which is like a .com era startup. He wrote this amazing post called "Ideas Are Just a Multiplier of Execution." And the basic idea here is this: you have ideas, you have execution in the middle, and then you have the outcome on the right-hand side. And so just very straightforward. If I have an awful idea, the multiplier is -1. And if I have no execution on that idea, that's $1, and that outcome would be -$1. If I have a so-so idea with so-so execution, that's a $10,000 value with a 5x multiplier. That outcome is $50,000. And if I have a brilliant idea with brilliant execution, that's worth $200 million, let's say, right? But this is pretty straightforward. Here's where it gets interesting. If you start to mix and match these a little bit, if you have a brilliant idea with no execution, that's worth about $20. If you have a good idea with weak execution, that's worth about $10,000. You have a 10x multiplier on a $1,000 or so outcome. And if you have a so-so idea or an average idea with great execution, it's a 5x multiplier on a $1 million value. That's worth $5 million. Now, of course, these numbers are made up, but I think this is a fantastic mental model for how you should be thinking about solving other people's problems. The idea is not the key. The idea is a multiplier of your execution. Execution is the key. Execution is the lever that you want to be focusing on, not the perfect idea. The perfect idea is a myth. Nobody cares about your idea. It's mostly about execution. We all have that friend that rambles on and says they have this great idea and they never execute. There's so many people like this. I've been like this. We're all like this at certain times in our lives. The key is to focus on the execution. My favorite example of this, I lived in Honolulu, Hawaii for 2 years. And there was this coffee shop I absolutely loved that I would go to and work from all the time. I really liked it. And one day something caught my eye and I saw someone, there was all these businesses leaving these kind of postcards and business cards for the stuff that they do. And I saw one, it was near a university there. And I picked this one up and this is what it said. It said, "I do math problems. You send me math problems. I do them." I thought this was the best example of a so-so idea with incredible execution. This guy doesn't even have a website. I mean, take a look at this card. There's a Facebook page, there's an Instagram handle, and there's a phone number. Step-by-step solutions, guaranteed A-level work, quick and convenient service. I don't know if this is like I hope I'm not exposing this guy. I hope it's not like a college cheating ring or something like that, but this isn't sexy. He's not trying to invent Uber or Instacart or anything like this. He's solving math problems. It's an incredibly boring, unsexy idea with phenomenal execution. It probably costs $5 to distribute the strategy to all the coffee shops near this university. It would not surprise me at all if this could be a $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 business with enough effort and work around it, right? Maybe not at one university, but if you could expand it very quickly. This is where you want to be. You want to be starting with the unsexy stuff that really isn't that interesting of an idea, but being relentlessly focused on the execution. Execution is how you can go from an idea to a viable business, and that's what we'll cover next. So business validation, getting customers before you build. So let's say you did everything that we just talked about, and now you want to get those customers into the front door. So a great idea means nothing if you can't get those customers, right? So I've seen people spend years and thousands of dollars building a product based on a great idea, only to launch and get 0 customers. Actually, let us know in the chat if you're one of these people. I've definitely been one of these people, spending a lot of time, money, effort. The very first business I started with a friend of mine, right? We spent so much time. We spent a year, thousands of dollars, went into credit card debt, all of it, launched, got 0 customers. Super embarrassing. So before you even build your online course, you need to know if your idea is worth pursuing or not, right? The only real validation is money in the bank. That's what you need to focus on when you're first getting started. This is awkward, especially if you've never started a business before. This can be incredibly painful. but you need to get over this mental hurdle as quickly as possible. You want to focus on getting your first 10 paid customers as quickly as possible. Asking friends and family if they'd like this idea, if they would sign up for something like this, it isn't good enough because these people love you too much and they're not going to hurt your feelings. Money and ringing the register and people actually entering their credit card details is the validation that you're looking for. That's where the rubber meets the road. Having people pay you on the spot is a really good way to do this. Hey, would you ever sign up for this? Yes, I would. Okay, here's my PayPal link. Here's my Square link. Here's my Venmo. Getting actual money in the bank is the validation to prove that there's market demand and market need. I hate to tell you this, but your mom telling you that you're a genius and that you're super smart and super handsome and super beautiful, it isn't good enough. Surprise, surprise. If people aren't willing to pay you, then you do not have a validated product, full stop. Don't focus on the fun stuff. And everybody does this. And you're doing this right now, I can guarantee. Don't focus on the fun stuff like logos, websites, business cards, right? The white balance on that camera that you bought. All of these kind of very, very minute details. They don't matter until you have a validated product and until you have a minimum viable product. That's what you need to focus on first. So for example, right, let's say you wanted to get this going as quickly as possible. You could send an email or a text right now on this webinar with your idea. Let's say you were starting a personal training business. You could send this text right now. Hey, I've started a new personal training business. I'm offering 3 Zoom consultations and a personalized meal plan once a week. The price is $500 a month, but I'm doing a promo at $99 for my first 3 customers. Do you know anyone that would love this offer? If so, could you forward them this message? You could send some variation of this to your 5 or 10 or 15 closest friends or family members and get the ball rolling. You could start collecting payments by the end of today. If you need help with this, and if you haven't done sales before, if you've never set up a checkout page on a site, or if you've never done negotiations with people, or if you're very uncomfortable about this, it's totally fine. It's very normal. I was very uncomfortable with this stuff in the beginning. It's awkward. So here's a very simple formula that you can use that can be incredibly powerful. And that formula is price plus benefit plus time. So here's a couple of examples for you. So for $149, I will show you how to apply to 10 Ivy League schools in 45 minutes. Price, benefit, time. $149. Benefit is 10 Ivy League schools, and the time is 45 minutes. For $89, I will teach you how to increase your running speed by 15% in 2 hours. For $25, I will send you a PDF with the best hiking trails in Northern California that will save you at least 4 hours of research and planning. This is your elevator pitch. This is your 1-sentence pitch. Price, benefit, time. So this is a good way to craft a message, especially if you're sending it as an email or a text message. There's no excuse. You can literally do this today. So if you're not going to do this, that's fine, but you can't make any excuses anymore. You can absolutely start trying to validate your idea right now. Even if you get turned down, at least you're putting yourself out there. And that's the point. You can start to get feedback right away. You need to get used to failing. You need to get used to falling and failing and getting back up and trying again. It's going to happen a lot. You might as well get started right now. So here's how I got my first customers. If we want to talk about being embarrassed and being a clown and making horrifying decisions, let's talk about me. Let's talk about my life for a little bit. So I was very interested in SEO. I loved SEO. I was blown away that someone was willing to pay me full time to do it. It was very exciting when I first started my career. I had no idea how to acquire my first users for my business. I had no audience to tap into. No one knew who I was. I was 24 years old. I had just moved to the city. I didn't know anybody. So I didn't really know what to do. So I went down to like a FedEx Kinko's copy shop. I printed out 3,000 flyers. I took a day off work and I walked every block of the city of San Francisco with duct tape, with a roll of duct tape. It was super cold. It was December. I was miserable. And I was duct taping flyers to every lamppost I could find in San Francisco. Halfway through doing this, I realized that this was the same strategy I had when I was 11 years old, trying to mow lawns. And it wasn't a huge surprise. This was super dumb. This did not work at all. I found the flyer. I actually have a copy of this flyer still in my inbox from way back in 2012. So this was dumb. This was my first most public and probably my most embarrassing failure, but it didn't stop me from getting going, right? I ended up finding a hidden gem, which at the time was meetup.com. So I set up the San Francisco SEO meetup. I didn't really have a plan for it, but anything would have been better than my first attempt at getting users, which was going around posting my flyers up with a bunch of duct tape. Found an old a Wayback Machine screenshot of what it looked like back in 2012. Is so garbage, that user interface. Yuck. It was not good, but I set it up. It was $10 or $25 a month as an organizer. And then Meetup ends up inviting other users in your city to that group based on the interest that they've selected in their profile. So I ended up shooting up to about 100 members in the first 3 days, created my first event, which was a marketing happy hour. And the whole point was just getting people who are interested in digital marketing and search engine optimization in a restaurant, in a bar, in the same room, and then working it from there, right? So I actually found another copy of one of the events. So after my first event, I added an additional 100 people to the Meetup mailing list. I suddenly had an audience. Meetup.com is incredibly underrated because it serves you very well if you're brand new and you don't have an audience, because it works well as a backdoor bootstrap mailing list. It's a fantastic way to sort of bootstrap a mailing list very quickly for not a lot of money. I found a co-working space in San Francisco. I hosted a free SEO event for that co-working space, set up an Eventbrite, and then I emailed my new mailing list that I just created through meetup.com. We have a couple of screenshots of it here, right? So we can kind of fly through this a little bit more. I'll cover this one last piece of it on the actual event before moving forward. I sent out an email to everyone saying, hey, I'm going to do this class. It's free. I would love for you to come. No one RSVP'd. There were maybe 2 RSVPs. So I had to cancel the class. And 1 or 2 weeks later, I emailed the list again. And I said, hey, we're doing this class. It costs $500, but I have 9 free tickets remaining. There were 30 RSVPs in less than 24 hours. This is some standard, standard kind of marketing psychology stuff. I highly recommend Robert Cialdini. Wrote this book in 1984 called Persuasion. It's a fantastic, absolutely incredible psychology book around marketing and what makes us tick and all kinds of stuff in there. It's 30, 40 years old and it's still used by internet marketers everywhere today. So highly recommend this. Scarcity and pricing, and there's a lot in there around this. This let me test the first version of my course with real people. And so I eventually used that to acquire my first 3 users. ClickMinded was officially in business. Now, this isn't the point. The point is not necessarily go to meetup.com and do exactly what I did. The point is to realize that you're backed up against the wall, you're backed up into a corner, and to relentlessly keep wiggling around until you can make something happen. I didn't have an email list. No one knew who I was. My first couple of attempts failed, but I kept moving and kept trying things with multiple failures along the way until something happened. And then finally, eventually, a few people entered their credit cards and signed up. So that was me. Let's talk about how you can get your first customers. I'm not necessarily saying copy and paste my strategy. That was back in 2012. I think a lot of that is still applicable today, but not perfectly, not exactly. So let's talk about how you can get your first customers. So if you already have even a small audience, subscribers, followers, current customers, then a simple email or maybe a tweet sometimes is all you need. If you follow Nat Eliason, he's very popular in internet marketing circles. He's a great guy. And he had a really good example of this a few months ago. He really likes this sort of note-taking second brain project called Rome. And he sent out a tweet, I think it was 6 months ago. At the request of a few people, I'm going to create a Rome research course. I'm going to start on this tomorrow. If you want early access and to give feedback, send $50 to my PayPal address. Only taking 25 people. So there he goes. He sent out the tweet. He's validating the demand. He's leveraging his current audience that he's already built. And he can sort of tweet that out with no work. You can say, I don't even know if I'm going to create this yet, but let's see if I can collect any payments for it first. If you have an audience already, it's pretty straightforward how you can get going. We don't have to harp on that too much because if you have an audience already, you don't need that much help from me. If you don't have an audience yet, which is how I started, you will need to get creative. You will need to brute force your way through this. It's not going to be an exact science. If it was an exact science, everyone would be doing it, right? So you have to find your own messy version of getting this going and making something happen. These are tactics that don't scale well, but they work when you're just getting started. And that's worth keeping in mind. Going up around posting up flyers or holding individual meetup groups for happy hours, these things didn't scale well, but it is a way to make something happen. So let's now talk about this in the business validation cheat sheet. So I'm going to open up this tab. We're going to screen over here. Again, this is a CourseMinded.com/blueprint. If you want to grab this, this is the same document. It's not a new one. So if you have the old one, you can just sit back and watch. Jonah, I just want to make sure, are we still okay on time here? I know we're coming up on minutes or so. Yeah.
No, we're doing good, Tommy. We got about like 10 minutes before we hit that hour mark, but you're spitting fire here, so we can go a little over. If we're running. Yeah.
Cool. Sounds good. Sounds good. So you'll have this. You can go through this document all you want, but just to show you what's going on here, this is your business validation cheat sheet. This is tab 2 of the same document we already gave out. And these are ideas to get your first customer. So if you have an existing audience, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit, right? Here are the instructions for what to do with an existing audience. Friends and family, the price benefit time formula, which we just spoke about. Meetups, meetup.com is a great way to do this. Even in amongst the pandemic, meetup.com is actually offering lots of virtual meetups now. So you don't even have to leave your apartment. This is still a tactic that you can use. Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, Facebook group, LinkedIn, Clarity.fm, Airbnb experiences. It's a fantastic way to bootstrap your first couple users. Co-working spaces, using an ad or a landing page. These are all options for you. I'm not going to fly through these. You can read these on your own, but all of your business validation stuff is there that you can use and get going as quickly as possible. Okay, so I'm going to swap over and we will cruise right along here. We want to get to the next section. So let's do this. And if you can still see my slides and still hear me, let me know. And we'll get going here.
We got you here, Tommy.
Okay, great. So just a reminder before we move on, the only real validation is money in the bank. For whatever reason, people want to ignore this. They want to ignore this very inconvenient truth. The real validation is money. I didn't mean to do like an Al Gore shout out there, I promise. That was just an accident. The real reminder here is the only real validation is money in the bank. You need to get your early customers paying you in order to validate your product. We have to stress this. I want you to stop what you're doing right now and type this into the chat. I will get paid before I launch. Go ahead and do that right now. I will get paid before I launch. I'm not going to go forward. I can't go forward until everybody does this. Please do it right now. I will get paid before I launch. All caps if you want to go super aggro. Maybe even a couple of exclamation points if you want to. Eduardo, make sure to hammer him on this. I will get paid before I launch. Please, 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 please do this. It's hard, it's brutal, it's awkward, but it will get you incredibly close to launching and incredibly close to getting this product up and running much faster than you'd imagine. You don't have to work on the actual content creation and the product development until you get people paying you first. I will get paid before I launch. Good, okay. Scaling your business. The last section, going from 10 to 1,000 customers. So let's say you use one of these tactics. You're begging and kicking and screaming and fighting and clawing your way to your first 10 or so customers or 5 customers or whatever it is, and you're getting validated. That's a great start. So after you get your first customers, it's time to think about building your product and scaling it up to more and more users. I struggled a lot with this, and you can learn from my mistakes so that you don't have to. And you can sort of keep this in mind when you're ready to explode your product to thousands and thousands of people. So I want to talk about a concept that should be very familiar in startup circles, which is the legendary trough of sorrow, right? So you may have seen this before. You kind of had the initial high of starting a new business or a new online course or anything like that. The reality sets in and you have this devastating trough, and it takes a long time to get out of it. And you finally start to recover a little bit, and then you get back to above average happiness much later on. You go through a lot of hell to get there, though. A lot of people are familiar with this if you started a business. Before I created an online course, my business consisted of teaching in-person classes. So I was actually teaching startups face-to-face on the weekends, right? And I want to talk about this one moment in time, which is called Sad Saturday, right? So a prospect emailed me and he said he wanted to take a class. His name was Phil Liu, and he was only free on one Saturday in March. And that Saturday was March 17th, 2012. It was my 26th birthday. It was also St. Patrick's Day, right? And so I had a ton of debt from an old failed business. I was super desperate to make this work. And so I said yes to him. I was very reluctant, but I said yes to him. I found the email. He was writing me like, can you do this? And I'm like grudging. I go, sure thing. March 17th is basically crying, writing this email. And then he asked for a promo code. And I was like, what? God, okay, fine. Okay, great. Don't forget to send me the promo code. Guy was hammering me. Great negotiator. There he is, Phil Liu. This is the guy hammering me, getting me to show up to teach him on my birthday, right? It's even worse than it sounds. I didn't go out the night before. My friends were all making fun of me, saying I was stupid. I was hanging out with this guy, Phil, on my birthday. People were outside of the class I was teaching. They were partying, wearing leprechaun hats. They were drinking like Guinness beers and stuff and running around. And it was just me and Phil sitting in this room, a cold, dark, damp room on a Saturday morning, talking about his website. It's even worse than this if you look at the numbers. The revenue per student was about $500. He asked for a discount. I was doing a revenue share with the co-working space, right? It was a 50-50 revenue share. There was printed materials, PayPal fees, Eventbrite fees. I would buy him lunch. I was buying the guy lunch. So I was netting $150 per user. I'm sitting there on my 26th birthday on St. Patrick's Day making $150 for a full day's work. I prepped for the course for 4 hours. I taught the course for 8 hours. $154 divided by 12 hours is $12.83 an hour. San Francisco minimum wage, $13 an hour. ClickMinded was participating in illegal minimum wage tactics at this point, right? ClickMinded was the worst company to work for in San Francisco. What's the point? The point here is this. This wasn't working. I could not scale. I loved what I was doing. I loved teaching search engine optimization, but what I was doing was a really, really bad business. It was a really dumb idea because I couldn't scale myself. So I decided to turn my in-person class into an online course, right? So moving the course from offline to online was this massive change. At first, I thought teaching offline versus teaching online would be similar. The reality is that they're completely opposite, right? So creating a digital product is an entirely different business in and of itself. And what it does is it frees you to work on just one thing at a time, right? So Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator, he has a post on this titled How to Make Wealth. And he has this great quote in it where he says, he mentions this phrase, write once, run everywhere. I think it was an Oracle, something from Oracle in the 90s, something like that. But he talks about this in the concept of software engineering, right? So let's talk about the reverse concept of this, write once, run once. Write once, run once are basically products and services, right? Teaching someone a lesson in person, like I was doing with Phil on my birthday. Serving someone a meal or a drink as a bartender or a waiter. Changing someone's oil one time. Driving someone somewhere as an Uber driver. Selling someone a one-time service. This is write once, run once in the concept of software engineering. Now let's talk about write once, run everywhere, right? Write once, run everywhere. Creating an app and putting it in the App Store, allowing for millions of downloads. Uploading a YouTube video one time, allowing for millions of views. Recording a podcast episode and allowing for millions of downloads. Uploading original music to Spotify, creating an online course and allowing for millions of students. A tweet, an Instagram post, a blog post, something where you can do some concentrated effort and then that work can be scaled and replicated again and again and again forever while you sleep. That's the idea. There's write once, run once. That's the offline analog world. That's what I was doing teaching in person. And there's write once, run everywhere. That's the online course advantage. That's the leverage that you have. You can turn yourself into a million versions of yourself. That's the mistake I made. I thought teaching online would be the exact same as teaching offline. They are entirely different. One is write once, run once. The other one is effectively software engineering with a media component to it. That's the idea. This is what makes online courses so attractive. All the teaching happens up front. You have to teach really, really well one time. Then you don't have to do it again. This has freed us up to do lots and lots of different things really, really well and then scale ourselves to infinity. This enables you to leverage your own time and grow your business, right? So here's an example of how to think about this. When I was teaching in person on the left-hand side, live coaching, teaching, the majority of my time was spent teaching and a very small amount of time was spent growing my business. With online courses, it's the reverse, right? On top of this, the unit economics of an online course are extremely similar to that of a software product. People don't think through this before they create an online course, but you should, right? So every new student that enrolls in your online course, they have an additional cost of approximately $0 to your business. So your profit per student increases with each additional student. Here's an example of what that looks like. If you're familiar with software businesses, this isn't going to be that interesting, but if you haven't thought this through, it can be mind-blowing. And I know we're running up against the clock. We're going to be winding this down here in just a minute, so just bear with me for 5 more minutes. So let's say it costs you $4,000 to create an online course. Your V1 should not be anywhere near that. You can definitely be creating an online course for, $100 or less. Use your iPhone, be scrappy about it, whatever it is. But let's say it costs you $4,000 for your first version. That first user, right? Let's say you charge $400. You get $400 in revenue per student. So it's $4,000 to create it. You get one user, which is $400 worth of revenue. It has cost you negative $3,600 per user. Right? By your 10th user, you've earned $4,000 in revenue. It's cost you $4,000 to create the product. You're getting $0 per user. And then of course, once you get that break-even point, which in this situation is user 10, your revenue per user continues to go up and up and up and up without you needing to teach more. Again, if you're familiar with software and SaaS businesses and the unit economics of digital products, this isn't that interesting or that groundbreaking to you. But if you haven't thought this through, if you thought that offline teaching and online teaching were the same thing, this might be your light bulb moment right now. This might be your, oh my God, we're talking about entirely different things, offline and online teaching, entirely different businesses. Teaching offline, if you have 100 students and you make $150 per student, it might cost you 200 hours. If you're teaching online, right, and you have 100 students, you're making $360 per student and growing, and it might cost you 20 to 40 hours of teaching, right? More revenue per user, less total time spent teaching. All of the numbers are insanely good. Pro tip here, before we move on and finish this up, you can use the money you got from your first 10 customers to fund the creation of your product, right? It's not gonna cost you $4,000 to create your first course, but this is one of the reasons why you should get paid to build before you get started. Okay, let's go to the last section of this and then we can wrap this up. So we'll go back to your sheet. We're gonna very quickly go through this, building your course. We have listed a ton of resources for you to take and use and get started here. We love Teachable. We use Teachable. We recommend Teachable all the time. It's not because of any affiliate relationship or anything like that. We just like them a lot. They're listed on here, but there's other products we love as well. And so we've listed them all out here. The website that you use, we recommend Google Domains for your registrar, DreamHost, and WordPress, right? Learning management systems. We like Teachable. We say avoid WordPress plugins and avoid marketplaces like Udemy or Skillshare. How you take checkouts, right? What email marketing software you use, lead capture systems that you use, video recording and editing software, course slides, course downloadables, resources, certifications, quizzes, tests, live classes, outsourcing. This is just a list of stuff that we have used over the last 8 years of building this online course business. We're not going to go through these. This is yours to keep. Feel free to go ahead and troll through these and take what's useful to you. Okay, we're going to recap this and switch over to Q&A here in just a moment. So if you have questions, go ahead and start asking them in the chat now or get ready to ask them. We're going to briefly recap this and finish this up. So remember a long time ago, 1 hour, right when we were getting started, maybe this was you. You had lots of ideas and no execution. You were consuming entrepreneurial videos and blog posts, but you weren't getting any practical advice. Maybe you were spending weeks and lots of money building products that people don't want. Maybe you had your own Phil Lou and Sad Saturday story where you were, being miserable and you didn't know how to scale yourself. Now with this blueprint, after basically spending an hour talking about how many dumb mistakes I made over the last 8 years, you have a proven framework for discovering great business ideas that you can start without quitting your job. Don't need to quit your job. You can get real validation, which is, again, money in the bank. Hopefully you wrote it in the chat right before even building a product, and you have a clear blueprint to build a product and grow your business and scale it up as much as you need to. So today we gave you everything you need to get started. You absolutely don't need to read another post. You don't need to watch another YouTube video or anything like that. You can take this sheet, this free downloadable we gave you, and start right now. There's nothing stopping you. You don't need to watch anything else. You got to get to work. That's what my dad used to always tell me. You got to get to work. It's going to take work, but anyone who wants it enough is going to be able to do this. There's no more excuses. So with that said, if you're serious about investing in online courses for the long term, we do have something for you that you might like. So we've consolidated everything that we've learned after building our 7-figure course business. And there's no fluff here. It's only actionable advice. We're really particular about that. There's no generic recommendations here. It's extremely detailed walkthroughs based on all of the work that we've done over the last 8 years. And there's no fake promises. We only recommend tactics and tools that we use, and none of this get rich quick, money in your sleep, passive income kind of stuff, right? So introducing, super excited about this, ClickMinded. This is a new online course that we just launched. This is the single fastest way to create a world-class online course business from scratch. So it's a bundle of 2 different products. I just want to briefly go over these and then we can switch over to Q&A. The Start and Build course and the Grow and Scale Your Business course. And I want to talk about these right now. So Start and Build. So today's class was just this super micro small preview of what's included in this course. There's many products out there that claim to help you start and build your online course. But most of these courses only focus on setting up your camera, checking the white balance on your camera, using editing software. They leave out the critical and harder aspects of getting started, which is getting the initial traction. All the other courses out there, they often focus on what's sexy. They focus on the stuff where you're just sort of fiddling around and playing with technology. They don't focus on the gross, tough, difficult, embarrassing, awkward stuff, which is getting people to pay you, getting your first customers to pay you. Our Start and Build course focuses on how to validate your idea and get your first 10 customers, even if you don't have an audience, some of the stuff we talked about today. Our proven method for creating a bulletproof curriculum that's better than any course, YouTube channel, or blog that's out there. And then our framework for creating world-class course content your students are going to prefer over watching Netflix. Nowadays, your competitors are not your competitors. Your competitors are Instagram, Netflix, food delivery apps. There is so much insane stuff entering people's worlds now. If you have ADD in this day and age, it is a horrifying existence, right? And your course has to be better than all of that. So we go through this framework on how to create world-class course content that's more entertaining than Netflix. Setting up your, not all of Netflix, I mean, there's some amazing shows on there. Let's call a spade, right? Setting up your entire stack of tech tools to start selling as quickly as possible. So by the end of the Start and Build course, it's the first of 2 courses in this bundle. You'll be able to start bringing in revenue and creating a world-class course, even if you're working full-time on something else. Second is the Grow and Scale Your Business course. So we can briefly jump into this one. Our team spent over 100 hours reviewing content and products that claim to teach you how to build an online courses. We signed up for everything. We reviewed everything. We read everything. We evaluated all of it. We found that the biggest gap in everything we reviewed was that most of these other products out there don't teach you how to grow your business and scale up your operations. That's going from the Phil Liu Sad Saturday story to actually printing students and users and signups and enrollments, and the right one to run everywhere stuff that we described earlier. This is arguably the most important aspect of any online course business, and everyone skips over it. After your course has been created, even if you have an amazing curriculum, if you're not scaling yourself, the majority of your effort is wasted, right? You need to put most of your effort into growing, automating, and scaling your business once you find that product market fit. Our Grow and Scale course focuses on all these things: proven course-specific marketing blueprints and step-by-step walkthroughs on how to implement them, how to build a course sales funnel that attracts new customers every single month, again and again, and then how to scale up your revenue and your operations with automation, SOPs, freelancers, and partnerships, all things that you can do to kind of continue to make the machine print. That's the idea around this. By the end of the Grow and Scale course, you'll know exactly how to take your online course from a side hustle or a side project to a 6-figure business. So this is the one where if you've already got your validated idea and you already have customers, this is the one you want to be focusing on there. So those are the 2 things. We're going to switch over to Q&A here in just a moment. We just launched these. The feedback has been very good so far. We'll just fly through some of these testimonials. You can check these out on your own because I know we're running up on the clock here. I told you a little bit about me, but I haven't told you about Eduardo. Eduardo's in the chat. Eduardo, if you can say hey to everybody. Eduardo started as an apprentice at ClickMinded. He was on the growth team at several different New York and San Francisco startups, and he actually worked in content marketing at Teachable for a year, right? So he was there sort of in the early days of Teachable, learning exactly how some of the best online course creators work, right? And this was a very important part of his development in this curriculum. So while working there, he got exclusive access to learn how thousands of creators market their courses, including some of the most successful ones in the world. We built all this into the product. He used that to scale up ClickMinded from a single course to 7 different courses. You can actually see the moment in time in our revenue graph when Eduardo joined the business. I was not very good at the scaling and automation stuff. This is all Eduardo's wheelhouse. Absolutely fantastic. So we're super excited to share all of this with you and everything that we know about the course business with you. Both these ClickMinded courses retail for $1,000 each. We're going to be increasing them later this year, right? So the Start and Build course and the Grow and Scale course, we're pricing these at $1,000 each, and we're super excited about this. But for this workshop, Teachable beat us up. We got very beat up in these negotiations, and they made us offer a deep discount for anyone who's ready to commit now into building their online course business, right? We actually have footage. We have footage of the ClickMinded Teachable negotiation. It was not easy. It was not easy. So if you want to take us up on this, we're doing a special Teachable workshop deal. We have the Start and Build course, the Grow and Scale course. We have lifetime access to all of these free updates for life, a risk-free 14-day money-back guarantee, normally $2,000. We're going to do it today for $497, and we're super excited about this. However, this is one thing we love to do on webinars. If you're still here, that means you actually committed, you stayed, you listened, you closed out iMessage and Instagram and all these other things. You actually paid attention. You weren't the didn't read LOL guy. So I really appreciate that, right? You joined the webinar, you stayed the whole time. We have to reward that. So we're going to do what's called a fast action bonus, right? So if you upgrade during the webinar, you're going to get an additional $50 off. The catch is you need to use promo code START at checkout. So we just posted that link in the chat. It should be in there. I'm going to swap over my screen in just a minute. Make sure to use promo code START at checkout to get the whole bundle, normally $2,000 for $447. This is both courses. This is everything we've done here. Lifetime licenses, free updates for life, and a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. We do a 14-day money-back guarantee on our site, but Teachable insists on a 30-day one. So we're doing a 30-day one here, a little extra for you. If it's not a good fit, just let us know, and you'll get a full refund. A couple other things before we switch over to Q&A, Jonah. There's about 1 more minute left. So you can enroll 100% risk-free. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee. We're going to increase the price significantly when this promotion ends. All of our courses always include unlimited lifetime access and free updates for life. Whenever we do a future version, you get that automatically for free. There's no kind of upselling you to the 2025 version or anything like that. It's a one-time lifetime access. So here's what to do next. If you want to take us up on this offer, we'd love to have you. If not, you want to go off on your merry way and take the downloadable, that's cool too. But if you're serious about this and you want to commit, feel free to take this offer. We would love to have you. Some of the questions we often get, when do I get access to this? You get access immediately, right after purchasing. Can I expense this for my business? Probably, most people do, but make sure to talk to a CPA. Make sure it's an actual business expense. Talk to your CPA before you do that, but most people do. How long will I have access? You'll have lifetime access and free updates for life. It's mobile friendly. It's about 20 hours of content all in. There's no payment plan options available. You cannot buy the courses separately. You can only buy them as the bundle. 30-day refund policy, and you can get a refund within that 30 days, no questions asked. So a lot there. I know we try to cram a lot in as much as possible there. So there it is. I'm going to swap over my screen now. If you want to take it, normally $2,000. We're doing it for $447. Just make sure to use promo code START at the checkout. And with that, I think I'm going to swap over my screen, if that's okay with you, Jonah. I'm doing a lot of talking here.
It is. Tommy, thank you so much. I was taking notes the whole time. Holy heck, did I just learn a lot. Everybody who's watching, please start throwing your questions in. We got Tommy for a few more minutes here. I know he gave a lot of information. If you're like me, your brain is just totally buzzing. As those questions roll in, Tommy, normally I ask creators at this point to explain the course, but you do such a good job. You've outlined it all. Everyone also feel free to pop in, say something that you learned, something Tommy taught us that blew our mind, something you're excited about implementing in your own business. Both us at Discover and Tommy love to hear those things. It's all about impacting lives here. Well, we got a couple here. This one is challenging. I know from already your event and earlier, you're in a very motivating way, not the most sympathetic to excuses here, but I still want to have this question asked because I've been in this position. We have Mulaney here. What if you started to make a course to the first free classes, then got stalled? How do you pick up a strategy and get going? So what do you do at that point where you got started, but something got in your way? How do you motivate yourself, and where do you look to get going back? Yeah,
so Melanie, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is a great question, and I have I mean, Jonah, you worded that very well. I don't want to be demotivating, and I'm not trying to be a military boot camp instructor here either. But what I am trying to do is get relentlessly honest, right? Relentlessly candid about this, because only because I've messed this up so many times myself. I kind of wish I had, an older brother from the future that could just come back and smack me and make me come to my senses or something like that, right? So my answer to that question is actually to take a step back. So I think she said, I've started a free course, I got stalled, what do I do next? I would say that actually that entire approach, I'm not a huge fan of. I would say take a step back all the way to the beginning. And the focus there is on your free course. It shouldn't be. The focus should be on the customers. The focus should be on validating the idea. The focus should be on getting the first sales, right? So if you wanted to sort of get started again, I would get on the phone with those customers. I would review the keyword research tools and make sure, are people actually even looking for this? Can you put a price tag on this? One of my first products ever, when I first got into digital marketing, I wrote a very dorky ebook. I set the price at $10, nobody bought it. I dropped the price to $5, nobody bought it. And then I increased the price to $47 and 250 people bought it. So, right, this was kind of an idea around marketing psychology. Maybe you need to stop making it free and put a $500 price tag on it. Maybe you need to get on the phone with a bunch of different people, give it an entirely new name. Maybe you need to kick everyone out and have them rejoin with a different price, right? But I would go a step back and make sure to ask yourself the more important questions. Does anyone actually want this? What problems am I solving? You're in this mindset, and it's totally understandable. You're in this mindset of, how do I do this thing that I want to do? How do I move forward on this journey? And my answer is back up. Whose problems are you solving? And sort of take it a step back and approach it from that angle would be my suggestion.
That's awesome. I got another question here from Dr. Craig Peacock, which is very practical. What is the typical sales conversion rates for online course from landing page to visitor to paid customer?
Yeah. So short answer, Dr. Craig, I have no idea. And the next short answer is, I doubt anyone has any idea. In general, very broadly, extremely broadly, if you just want to use a universal e-commerce conversion rate, you might say 1 or 2% in general, right? If you want to say a lead magnet conversion rate, a very general one might be 5 or 10%. So the total number of people that enter their email address on your site, but it is just so broad that it's not even useful. It's really not even useful. I understand why it's an issue. You're probably running a campaign. Your metrics are probably low. I get it. But it's hard to be more specific than that because the internet's a big place. So I'm sorry, I can't be more helpful than that.
Well, and so I'll interject a little with that question, Tommy. If you're looking at those metrics to judge your success, how would you say, is there a way you think that's the wrong way to look at your success with a course, or is that the wrong point to focus on?
Yeah. So, once you're in the growth, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, that your focus every single day of your life should be exactly what your customers are eating, breathing, sleeping, and feeling every single day. Once you've figured out product market fit, it's okay to focus on your own business and focus on yourself and all that. It's just, people do that first and it's the wrong order, right? And so of course you can have your own metrics you're monitoring. We have a number of metrics that we're monitoring at ClickMinded, but it was after figuring out exactly who our customers are over the course of 2 years, right? So you can focus on these things. The other thing to keep in mind is maybe the channel's wrong, right? So for example, we were doing a lot of, before Eduardo came and joined me, I was doing a lot of email broadcasts that were just like, our users wouldn't hear from me at all. And then I would send out a promotional email out of nowhere. And surprise, surprise, nobody took it. Nobody did it, right? But then we started creating campaigns that were really, really valuable, delivering lots of value to users over many weeks and months. And then those conversion rates skyrocketed. Or when we do webinars, right? Paid traffic maybe converts 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5%. Webinars convert 15, 20, 25% because we do an hour of value, right? And an hour of me being a clown on video and things like that, right? So consider a violent change in direction in the channel if something isn't working, Dr. Craig.
Dr. Craig, yeah. And I got a couple more here, but this is kind of a tricky one given what you've said, I think, about pricing, but it's a question I've had in my own work and from other people I've worked with. If you're trying to serve a community, but Living Well with Epilepsy says, pricing is my biggest concern. Looking to offer a course to a chronic illness community already bogged down with lots of medical bills. So I think this is a specific audience, but I thought it was an interesting point because they're clearly trying to help people, but the price is an issue.
Yeah. So
Do you have any advice there?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and obviously, props to you for doing something that's clearly, maybe it's personally related, or maybe you're emotionally involved in some way, and that's phenomenal. This may be an issue. This is going to sound harsh and brutal. This may be an issue with, I think it was the second step we said in the customers, markets, and mindset. This might be a bad market. This might be a bad market. This might be the kind of thing where you shouldn't be in this business. If you want to do this, it's fine, but it should be a nonprofit. It should be your free time. It should be your spare time. The realities of economic forces do not change just because you want to be nice. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. It sounds like you're a better person than me, right? Saving the world and all that and that kind of thing. But it just because it's a good thing to do does not make it a good business. So I'd be very, very honest with yourself about that.
Excellent. Yeah. And we got a few. The rest of the questions we're having here are very specific to like the course in itself. I don't know. Did you want to answer those or just leave Eduardo to answer those in the?
Yeah, sure. We can answer any specific individual questions you have about the course. If you have broad questions at all, if you have feedback on this webinar about how we can be better, right? None for Jonah. He was a pro. He's the rock star. But any feedback from me on how we can improve, that'd be great. Or yeah, if you just want to keep going, happy to do it. I don't know. Also, Jonah, if we are pasting the URL in the chat as well, or if we're running up on time.
We will be pasting the URL in the chat. The link to Tommy's course is pinned to the top there, and you will get it in the email, which will also have the replay available. So for everyone watching, this information isn't disappearing. You'll have access to it. Although that course that Tommy's offering, it is only available, that discount, the incredible discount he's giving for the next week. So if you're thinking about it, it's okay to think for a couple days, but don't wait too much on it. I'm going to be heading over there. The question I thought that was really valuable strictly for the course was, is there any sort of one-on-one or direct community-based like access that's also given in that course? Yeah,
this is a great question. We get requests for this all the time. So there's not. So if you're looking for kind of a community or sort of one-on-one consulting thing, this is not a good fit for you. It's 20 hours of content. It's all self-serve. If you're looking for sort of the one-on-one coaching kind of thing, I wouldn't recommend this. If you email us or if you email me, we'll reply for sure. But if you're looking for someone to like check in on you every week and do the Zoom calls and stuff, this isn't for you. And I wouldn't recommend signing up.
Cheers. I appreciate that. Tommy, we do have to wrap up with time here, but once again, I want to thank you so much for sharing all of this knowledge. You gave a lot today. Everyone who's watching, if you can pop in the chat, let Tommy know how much you appreciated, something you especially took away. Like I said, we love hearing what this offers you in your life and the impact it has. Tommy, do you have any last little bits of insight before we kind of wrap up here? Any little?
Yeah. I mean, I hope the template was helpful. The way our model with all this stuff is we design these so that you can take it and run with it, and you don't actually need us to enroll. But if you want to get things faster, then we recommend signing up for our stuff. Mm-hmm. On a side note, we're just online course nerds. I love online learning. I love teaching. I think that online courses are one of the most important technologies we have, the ability to scale knowledge to infinity. We, in our downtime, we take online courses, right? We're building online courses. Right. We're building online courses about online courses. And then I take a bunch of online courses on the side. I used to teach at a graduate school, an MBA level program. Eduardo is constantly kind of taking online courses as well and worked at Teachable. So we're just sort of obsessed with this stuff. And I also love meeting other nerds who love this kind of online course stuff as well. So this is a fascinating industry, and it's a fascinating time to be a part of this. And it's not going to go away. I think it's going to be very exciting if you look into the future, when people look back at this moment in time where people started digitizing education and learning. It's going to be very interesting what historians say about this moment in time.
Yeah, what the memes will say in the history.
That is the most important thing. You're right. memes. I did it for the memes. I'm
did
here
it
for the memes.
No, Tommy, thank you so much for everyone watching. Everyone's rolling in here, just saying thank you, all the information they learned. If you enjoyed this event, we're doing more and more here at Discover, so please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tommy, if you want to wish everyone a farewell, I think we're calling it good for the day.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming. Really appreciate it. If you have any feedback, send us an email, hello@coursminded.com. Other than that, thanks so much. And Jonah, thanks for hosting us. We really appreciate it. Teachable Discover has been awesome.
Of course, pleasure to have you, Tommy. We'll see you all later.
Thanks a lot. Bye.